Now, President Cyril Ramaphosa is expected to address the nation this evening at 7 p.m. CAT. That is on the country's risk-adjusted response to COVID-19 and the pandemic. His address, of course, does come at a time when South Africa has experienced a sustained decline in new infections of COVID-19 here in the country, even transmissions going down. There is also quite a rife bit of speculation that the country may indeed move to level 1 of the alert levels here. Acting Presidential Spokesperson Tyronne Seale says the address follows wide-ranging meetings held by the president since Monday, which of course includes NEDLAC, which is a meeting that was held as well then yesterday. President Cyril Ramaphosa will of course make that broadcast this evening, and we will have it for you live right here then on SABC News. Let's get a little bit more then on the story. My colleague Mzwandile Mbeje is standing by here to give us a sense of how far things are going and where to from here. Mzwandile, thank you so much for the time, really appreciate it. It's going to be a time then when the president has to juggle quite a few things: the return of South Africa's economy in some way and perhaps an action plan of sorts, plus of course the response to COVID-19 when it comes to a health perspective. Less than 100,000 active cases of COVID-19 in the country. Can we say that the worst is over for him?
Well, thank you very much, Arabile. I think it will not really be making a mistake to say the worst is over. But saying that the worst is over does not mean, Arabile, that the pandemic is over. All it basically says is that we have made substantial progress insofar as fighting this pandemic. But we should have taken lessons from what has been happening elsewhere. As much as we feel we are confident enough that we can ease some of the restrictions, we don't need to be reckless because we don't want to risk the second surge. I mean, if you look at the data, 2 days ago, the Ministry of Health provided the data, so you could see that, hospitalizations are down. Even the number of deaths is going down, though perhaps the reporting at the weekend and during the week tends to be different. But the overall picture, you can see that it's going down, and the capacity of our health system seems to be able to hold up at the moment. So, and you remember, the economy is quite suffering at the moment. So what is it that the president needs to do? So he needs to strike a very interesting balance to make sure that given that we are making progress, we can perhaps somehow open more, but don't risk the second surge.
Mzwandile, what do you make then of the alliances though? Have all the alliances come to the party here? Have we all perhaps joined with the president in agreeing to where we should go at this point in time? Because of course many industries, including aviation, tourism and the like, would definitely want to move to level 1 and in fact perhaps open up the borders in completion at this point in time and perhaps have some sort of restrictions and the like. But the question becomes whether we are all aligned with that movement. Do you get a sense that that is the case?
Well, you get a sense that many people would want to see borders open. But if you do that, you look at the number of tourists that come to South Africa, many of those countries, particularly in Europe, in America, so those countries are still battling this pandemic. Well, the original country, the original epicenter of this disease, China, has made tremendous progress, and we do get a number of visitors from that country. So I think what will happen, Arabil, is that perhaps countries on the African continent could be allowed to come in, and others around the world, but there will be those certain countries where restrictions will still remain, because you don't want to risk what they call the second surge, because, it will negate just about everything that we have been doing. Everyone does understand that the economy must be opened up, but at the same time, you have to be careful. Yes, from the political perspective, others feel you just should, like the DA, they feel you should just remove the lockdown altogether. But other parties are saying we still need to be more careful, because once we have a second surge, we'll find it very difficult to deal with it. If you look at the situation in America, for example, the cases rose more when the second surge was coming. So you don't want that kind of system where our health system will be completely overwhelmed and then we're back to square one, so we go back to the lockdowns. Our economy is already in a fragile state. Can you imagine if we were to impose those restrictions again? So basically we'll just run to the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets so interesting at this point. You're right. Mzwandile, we are going to continue to, of course, look at the story in quite prodigious fashion across the day, of course, just whether even the ANC is sort of in agreement. And I only say that because certainly there have been rumblings of whether the president should even be stepping down. It's been a real test to the presidency's time in charge then, to President Cyril Ramaphosa. He's even lost, of course, his spokesperson there as well. Plus the MEC for Health in Gauteng, Mzwandile Mbeje, and all those issues have come to the fore. Can we, even at this point, perhaps for the president's sake, hope that he's through the worst? Has he gone through this scenario and perhaps still remains, shall we say, in power?
Well, it will be interesting, Arabile, to see what he's going to say later this evening, because South Africans have been very clear that they need to hear him say something very strong on corruption. So if he is seen to be taking a decisive action around those who are seen to be close to him, so South Africans will have hope in him to say, well, so he's serious about what he's saying. But of course, we still need to wait for the processes to check if actually those people who are supposed or who are thought to be in the wrong are actually wrong. So what will really be a test is whether that which he says is implemented insofar as fighting corruption is concerned.
Okay, Mzwandile, just a very final question. What do we expect to get out of the economic plan that will hopefully help South Africa restructure itself? We have had numerous plans, of course, so this is bound to be another interesting one, I suppose.
So what I think we will have is a situation where I think government will be able to redesign some of the programs that were already there in terms of how our economic programs are going to go. So, and then the big question, Arabile, is you know that at the end of October, some of those 350 rands, some of those grants are ending. So is he going to extend them? So what sort of balance is he going to strike there? So it would be very interesting to really listen to the president this evening. I mean, as much as the nation awaits him, it's more about the economic recovery, because at the moment, the country can't continue in this fashion, because if we are not able to turn around the economy, well, we'll be in trouble.
Only time will tell. We'll see later this evening. Mzwandile Mbeje, political editor here at the SABC. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it as well. Then it gets really interesting. Time will tell. It's just about a few more hours to go. In fact, around 6-7 hours or so to go before the president does speak, of course, later this evening. 7 p.m. it is. We'll have that for you live here on SABC News. Earlier on,